Hey, hi. Welcome to Someone Else's Movie, the original podcast where an actor, writer, director, or nebulous industry figure gives a little love to a movie they didn't make. I'm Norm Wilner. I'm a critic, consultant, and programmer based in Toronto, and this is the other thing I do. My guest this week is Guillaume Marbeck, a French actor who's having a pretty great year. This spring, he went to Cannes with Richard Linklater's Nouvelle Vague, a fleet and funny picture about the making of Breathless, in which he stars as Jean-Luc Godard, alongside Zoe Deutsch and Aubrey Dulin as Jean Seberg and Jean-Paul Belmondo. In September, he accompanied that film to TIFF, along with Elise Winocourt's drama Couture, where he co-stars with Angelina Jolie and Louis Garrel. Nouvelle Vague is in theaters right now, and you should absolutely see it there in the company of your fellow film nerds. I owe this episode to Winnie Wong, who not only booked Guillaume on the podcast, but came up with the idea that he should discuss Breathless, because having the guy who played Godard talking about the experience of seeing the Godard movie, which he recreates in Linklater's film, was just too good to pass up. So without further ado, please join us in this Hall of Mirrors, which is as much a celebration of Godard's revolutionary accomplishment as it is a conversation about art, artists, and passion. This is Someone Else's Movie.
The first time I saw it, I don't know if it's before my cinema studies or after, but surely I watched it during my cinema studies. That's sure. I don't know how many times I've watched it. But what I loved about it right the first time I watched it, it's that it's completely different from the classical way of telling a story. It's more about like what is the sentiment of living this moment of time in Paris at this time, and also the reaction between characters. It's not so much about the intrigue, it's more about like what is the thing that you capture and that you eat as an audience, like when you're in a party with people. Why do you go to parties? People are talking a lot, they're talking about topics all the time the same. It's not very deep, but there is a vibe. There's something that you enjoy. And I think Nouvelle Vague and Breathless especially is about that. It's about vibing with the people that you see on screen, not so much about like following a story with beats and like happenings and twists. It's not about that. It's just like those guys are cool. I want to live that way, you know?
Yeah, it's funny too. The film pulls so heavily from what Godard liked about film noir, which I think was the style, American film noir. I mean, the style, the clothes, the posturing, and
Yeah.
he made a film about people who are also drawn to that and trying to emulate it, to replicate it for themselves and live the lives. And that translates to the audience because we can connect to Michelle and Patricia because we want the same things. Like, right up until the end of the film, it's fun to be with them. And we see Michelle kill someone right away. There are no illusions about who this person is or what he wants. And he never shows any sign of not humanity. Like, his interest in style and posture is deeply human, but he never shows any sign of remorse or regret. He simply is moving through the world doing what he wants to do because he saw it in a movie and took that inspiration. And I know there were characters who were enamored of image, like Sunset Boulevard is already in the background. People have made movies about people who are obsessed with stardom and celebrity, but Godard made it personal and immediate in a way that I don't know that anyone had before. And it's funny, nobody talks about that. I mean, you're the first person who's really mentioned the connection to the sense that you just want to hang around these people.
Yeah. Actually, the character of Belmondo in this movie was really inspired by one of his friends. And he wanted to be this guy. There's so many directors that write a character and they think it's themselves. But when you go on set and you see the director and you see the actor playing the character, the director is just the cringe version of this character. And Godard was just that. He wished he could be handsome, very muscular, know how to talk to people, to be cool. He was not that. He wished he could, but he was not. And but he knew also he couldn't be this. But because he couldn't be, he would live it through the picture and through directing them, like being a part of it. This is, I think, why we have different friends and friends that are not like thinking the same way we are, or that are pursuing different type of lives, because we wish that we could have their lives in some way, but we are not ready because this is not our passion, this is not the way we want to do our lives. But we tolerate, and more than tolerate, we appreciate their company because it makes life so much interesting, because it's different. and and also, I think this movie was just an attempt for Godard to try to make something that is his own, but not for him, for his generation. That back in the days, they wanted to see like what their things were. And it's the same way we are having this right now with YouTube and TikToks and Instagram. Like people are putting like the stuff that they are enjoying doing, they are enjoying wearing, they're enjoying seeing or living, and it's just an auto promotion of the youth back in the day.
Yeah. And I think now, too, the internet has given people the ability to express themselves in ways that they couldn't before, and
Yeah,
globally, for good or ill. And we can talk about that separately. But when Godard made Breathless, you had to do it with people. You couldn't do it alone, right? I mean, it's still a collaborative effort, and it captures an entire cultural spirit instead of one person who is the result of culture, if that makes any sense. So the energy that was going on in the Nouvelle Vague, the the films are thrilling and electric and immediate and honest, but they're also, until Breathless comes along, they're also conventional. I mean, they're wonderful, and I mean, I love the 400 Blows with all of my heart, but it is recognizable as a movie. We're seeing there's more energy to it. There's a more lively performance. It's more naturalistic, but the composition, the structure, the lighting, it's all familiar. It doesn't feel as jarring as Breathless does, where the editing is making you think about editing and the cinematography is making you think about the person holding the camera. And the performances are clumsy in a really interesting way because the actors, even though they're natural on screen, there is this little tension that comes from not knowing what's happening in the moment because they're being fed their lines before they even understand them. And then Godard was really onto something there. This is an incredible immediate way of making a movie, and it still requires everyone around him to trust that he knows what he's doing.
trust or just to get paid to do the movie,
Yeah.
because I think, yeah, there's a big part of this is he he had this idea that he wanted to bring reality into a movie.
Mm-hmm.
This was his goal. He didn't want it to force reality to look a certain way, or force the actors to play a certain way, or force the camera to be a certain place. He just told people very blurry uh, uh,
Vague descriptions.
descriptions, or what he wanted. Like for the DP, he would always tell him like, "Oh, I don't want this, I don't want that." And then the DP is like, "Okay, so what I'm gonna film?" And he would put the camera what he thought was good for the scene. And the actors, it's the same. He is not giving the lines to the actors, uh, and it, it pisses maybe Seberg in the first place, because she writes letters to her friends, and she says like, "This is a nightmare. I get my lines on the day. I want to quit this movie." This was on record back then. And at the end of the movie, she says, "Yeah, you know, this is kind of interesting to have the lines on the day because of that. I just think like, okay, fuck it. He doesn't want to give me direction. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to be free." And this is exactly what Godard wanted. He wanted her and Belmondo and all the other actors to feel free so that it felt like reality, because reality is free. Nobody's telling you your lines in your life. And so I think this participated to this feeling that it's not like a movie you've seen before, like 400 Blows. Even though 400 Blows has a picture lining that feels very real because there are not so many lamps used to shoot this movie. The camera is always uh, is is handheld for the most time, and so there's a sense of reality, but not in the way the characters are in Breathless. That is a little unique.
Hey, it's Norm interrupting my own show to bring you up to speed on Shiny Things, my newsletter about physical media, culture, and the odd streaming project. Last week, I wrote about the new releases of Relay and Clown in a Cornfield, as well as A24's deluxe box set of Ty West's X Trilogy and Warner Archive's stunning new 4K edition of The Curse of Frankenstein. Sign up for a 14-day free trial at shiny-things.ghost.io or find a link at the Simcast Blue Sky account. You like reading about movies? I like writing about them. Come check it out. And I think about the films that followed, even Godard's own films, where he's sometimes trying to top the effect. And, it's like heroin. I am told that the first hit is the one that you chase for the rest of your life. You will never get the same impact, the originality of it, the sensation of it. And now I'm talking about Breathless. But the sense that you are being picked up and thrown around the room by the film. Everything else that follows is yes, but it's no Breathless, which isn't fair because Contempt is brilliant, and I mean I love Éloge de l'Amour with all of my heart. I think that film is absolutely fascinating. I've seen it every time I see it. It reveals more to me through its polemics and its politics and its quiet and the sense that you're watching something that's never going to come back to these characters, that they've already lost the thing that's most important to them. Breathless, though, it is a freight train, right? It is a straight line of the thing that he is going to do for the rest of his career. And it's so stunning. I mean, I know I didn't appreciate it fully the first time I saw it because I saw it on, I think it must have been broken up into pieces there was a television show that ran movies, a television channel that ran movies in Toronto when I was a kid, and it spread a film out over 5 nights in half-hour segments, and that is absolutely no way to watch Breathless. But then I saw it again in film school as well, and this is what it's supposed to feel like. And then again and again and again, and it's just, I wonder what it's like for people to appreciate it now that, what is it, 65 years later, that everything it's done has been assimilated and incorporated into cinema. And people, I'm deeply amused by the idea of someone seeing Nouvelle Vague first and then watching Breathless. It's like, oh, that's what they were doing.
Exactly. And so to cut that, I think Godard, he was making movies that he thought were out of date the date it was ended. Like the day is ending Breathless, it's obsolete for him. He's on to the next one. He's onto a research like a scientist that is searching for new ways to make movies, new ways to experience images, sound, and telling stories. And to get back to what people feel about watching Breathless, because it's not so crazy inventive in terms of editing nowadays, that we have seen jump cuts in every YouTube videos, that we have seen poor money budget film having to shot just one angle of the scene. We're not really surprised by this, I think. What we're surprised, I think, nowadays is much more about what we just discussed about like the acting and like the feeling of like I am I am here watching something happening in real time in front of me. And this is the sensation I think we are craving for once we have seen Breathless uh, the first time. And you said like I think maybe now if people the cool thing about watching Nouvelle Vague and then seeing Breathless is that if you didn't have the chance to participate on a shooting on a movie set and you watch Nouvelle Vague and then you see Breathless, you really get a hint of what it feels when you participated into like a summer camp. It feels like a summer camp making a movie. And then you watch the results and it's not the same emotion you get from what you experienced during making the movie. And sometimes it's disappointing, sometimes it's not the thing you thought it would become. And often it's mesmerizing because it feels like a trick. It's like, this is not what I experienced. This is a completely new thing. I haven't seen that. But the only one who saw that was Godard, and maybe not even him, because when he got to the editing room, I heard he made a first version of it. It was too long, and there was no jump cuts. And apparently, Gene Seberg was really afraid of this movie come out because he thought it was not good. And Belmondo said, "You don't care, honey. It's not gonna go out anywhere. It's just gonna be a bankrupt movie." And then eventually he did the jump cuts because the movie was too long, and he kept only the thing that was interesting to him. So even him, I'm not sure he wasn't. He had Breathless in his mind the way it ended being uh, in the last place.
Well, I mean, if you're playing him, you're going to do some form of research, right? And
Yeah.
I guess my question is how much of the research was about the filming of Breathless in the first place and his response afterwards, and how much of it was before? I mean, how much did you feel you needed to know about him before you could be an impression of him, before you could create a version of him on screen?
I had no limits to this. I felt like the more I get, the more inputs I have on different aspects of his life, of who he was back then, of how he would talk to people, how he would answer a problem, or how he would spend his days off, would be great material. For example, did you know he had three siblings?
I'm
Nobody
not sure
knows
I
that.
did that. No.
Everybody thinks he's a lonely child, but he's not. He's a family of four or five. His mother died 3 years before he did Breathless, or so. I'm not sure about the dates, but his family hated him because he stole some books from his grandmother, so he couldn't say goodbye to her on her deathbed.
Oh.
So once you're this guy, you can't say goodbye to your mother that just died, and you're young, and you haven't made a movie yet, and then your girlfriend dumps you just before you make your first movie. Then you're not sure about the end, if they should escape together to Italy and live forever, or somebody should die. That makes people really understand who he was. But in the script, it's nowhere. But I had to know it so I could portray him. Like, what would Godard do or or say if he sees Truffaut with another woman, which is not his wife, which he has already a wife, and now an adventure with some other girls. And Godard don't have any adventure at all at
Yeah.
the time. What would he feel in this moment? Would he be smiling? Would he be like, what the fuck do you do with this girl? And all this, I think, participated to creating a way of portraying him that I felt that was respectful, not too gentle and not too harsh on him. I wanted to be just, to try to portray who he was back then, because he was also a very humoristic guy. He's this kind of guy that you had. Everybody had this guy in the classroom. Like, he says nothing for 1 week, and then he does punchline on punchline. He fires everyone, and everyone is laughing. But after this, nobody talks to him because he's still a weirdo. This is this guy, you know.
Yeah, it's a great reminder too in the film that he was a revered film critic for his bluntness. I mean, I've read his reviews. They're great, and they're not overly cruel, but they're very specifically French in that way. He could be incredibly dismissive, and you imagine him wrestling with the exact, le mot juste, and then you realize, no, he just typed that. That's just how that was. Because then you see him as a filmmaker, and you realize all of his, like, everything he does is intuitive. I don't think he understood where it all came
No,
from.
he he just spoke his heart, I think.
Mm.
But sometimes the heart is sad, and sometimes he's angry. And I think he had a real problem of talking to people, and he needed excuses to talk to people. And movies were the greatest excuse he found in his life to talk to people, to audiences, and also to the people that he was working with or his friends. Um, and playing that was really interesting because I had to portray somebody who's uh, handicapped by the speech, but he needs to speak to other people because otherwise he's not going to make his movie. So the conflict is there, and it makes really funny situations uh, because he's obliged. It's like, fuck you, guy. You don't want to talk to people. You don't want to give line. You don't want to say where the camera is. But still, the clock is ticking, and you have to make a movie, and the producer is not happy. So you better do your job.
Yeah. Well, and as an actor too, it felt to me like you were having fun with the sunglasses as a limitation, where he is deliberately unreadable in these
Sure.
situations. And every now and then, Linklater has the angle. There's just a tiny edge of one eye popping out where you can sort of see not panic, not desperation, but the intensity of him trying to
Yeah.
communicate. And no one can see that, which I just think
Yeah.
is wonderful.
Yeah. I think he was just thinking like for so long, like this movie that I want to make doesn't exist yet. There's not even a comparison of it
Exactly. Yeah.
out. How the fuck I'm gonna tell them how to do it? And like every word in the head is like, okay, I'm gonna tell it. No, it's not good. No, this is not good. Okay, this is interesting. Let's deep dive into this idea, and then try to make it simple. And then because it's overthought, it becomes a quote or something that is unreadable for anybody, and that doesn't make sense for anybody. But just give them like a direction. Maybe the way he's telling them, maybe the soul he's putting into the speech giving, gives them like the idea of like, what I want to do is whatever cinema is not now. That's it.
Yeah. Show me the future. But
Yeah.
who knows what that looks like?
And exactly, and the glasses was also a very good challenge for me because Richard told me like, oh yeah, you're gonna wear glasses all the time. Yeah. And then I said, okay, so how transparent are gonna be the glasses? Oh, full black. We're not gonna see your eye. Okay. So acting is all about the eyes, conveying an emotion to other people because of the eyes, the look you give to. How am I supposed to do my work? And he said, yeah, do it. You're doing fine. So I try to make it even more about gestures, eyebrows, the arms. I found that Godard was really moving like a scissors, like he's telling you stopping right, net, sharp, and in a direct way. And also, it was also trying to portray emotion through movement. And like there are some TikToks and Instagram and YouTube like where people say like, show me you are an artist without telling me. Show me that you're rich without telling me. And people like show stuff and stuff. And now it's like, show me that you are good out without telling me and without speaking a word. And so it was really interesting challenge to do and to convey emotion to, because for example, if he's impatient, he's gonna move maybe faster, or if he doesn't care, it's just like a gesture like that. Or if he's pissed off, it's just turning your head a little bit very slowly. And so all this had to feel right in my body while I was playing. So because those shades were black, it was hard, but I used it in Godard's way. I thought like, okay, so if nobody's gonna see my eyes, I'm just gonna close them. So then I'm gonna be even more focused on what I'm doing. And then I could think of my text and read the lines in my head and do the gestures. And it was just about my body moving and telling them. But nobody knew I was closing my eyes. They thought I was looking to everyone, because when you wear sunglasses, you think this guy is looking at you, but maybe he's not. Maybe he's looking down and looking up, looking at this person. But sometimes I use this trick. I was just focused, like closing my eyes. It was like a meditation, like if I was in the spirit of God and trying to like being controlled by it.
You think he ever did that?
Huh. I don't know if he can do something. He's dead.
It just feels like a natural defense. I mean, just the choice to wear the sunglasses all the time does sort of speak to a need to isolate somehow and
Yeah,
uh and
of course.
protect.
It's like it's another boundary like he had with like the difficulty of speech with people. He had this boundary of like looking. If I want to look at this, but I'm afraid of those people looking at me, and then I'm disturbing this reality, and then the reality becomes fake because I looked at this becomes fake. But if I have the glasses, they might think, oh, he's not looking at us because his head is turned that way, but maybe his eyes are this way. But I think it's like a spy thing to, there is a spy thing, there is also a shy thing, there's maybe a too sensitive thing
Mm,
because of those glasses. He was very sensitive to everything.
yeah. I mean, he saw everything too, ultimately, to compact it into a film frame. There's so much going on, and that's Breathless too. There's so much life to it that you have to sort of pick and choose what it is that we get to see, which is direction, right? But it's also how overwhelming that film was the first time we all saw it.
Mm.
So I usually conclude the podcast by asking what, if anything, of the film we're talking about you have used in your own work. We kind of covered that. So what I wanted to know though is, has this given you like has the Godard toolbox has inhabiting this person given you any further interest or excitement in the rest of his filmography? Are you back into it, or were you always a fan, or discovering new things? Because there's so much of it.
um, I think it's too early for me to go back to Jean-Luc Godard, but I really want to discover the rest of his life. You know, when I was reading a biography, I would stop at 1960 when Breathless came out. I
Huh?
didn't wanted to know more about the future, like him. Like I didn't wanted to know the text of the future. I wanted to know the text of 59. What is Godard in 59? So I had to stop. With his way. So I think at one point I will deep dive into it and know more about him. Uh, but I didn't want it to make me be in a posture of a fan that knows everything about all his life, about all he's done. I wanted to feel like it was my life in 59. Like what what would I be? What would I think? Uh, if I'm in 59 and I lived those events that Godard had lived. And sometimes during the shooting, you know, my memory was kind of fresh, but sometimes I tend to forget like details and stuff. And I felt it was right because when you live your life, sometimes things happen to you and they jump in your face years later sometimes, but sometimes they just disappear and fade and you don't remember them. And so I think, yeah, I want to know more about like what was the discovery he made doing movies with the latest project he was on, because if he kept doing a project, that means he has something to still search about. So that's still interesting to see as a director, to like what is the last uh techniques he learned.
Well, when you guys make the Alphaville movie, you get to find out.
Yeah. That would be I haven't seen it. It's one of the movies that is attracting the most to me to watch, because it's a sci-fi and it's Godard and it's black and white. But still, there are some movies like this. I just want to wait for a good opportunity for seeing them, like on a great venue, a screen, or and I had my moment in cinephily where you watch tons of movie. You can watch like 1,000 movies in a year, and you have to do this, I think, if you really want to pursue like uh this life of cinema. But once you've seen a lot of movies, you tend to have like a retreat of like not wanting to see them so fast, because after this, what are you gonna see? Because every year there are so many shitty movies that comes out and not so many good ones. So you have to save some on the side for later. Because once you are 80, what are you gonna watch?
My thanks to Guillaume Marbeck, who can be seen having an awful lot of fun as Jean-Luc Godard in Richard Linklater's Nouvelle Vague, in theaters right now across the US and Canada. Thanks also to Winnie Wong for coming up with both the booking and the concept. She knows what she's doing. You can find Guillaume on Instagram at Guillaume Marbeck, all one word, and you can find Breathless on 4K, Blu-ray, and DVD in a marvelous special edition from the Criterion Collection. It's also streaming on the Criterion Channel in North America and on HBO Max and Canopy in the US, and available to rent or buy on various VOD services across North America as well. You can find me on Blue Sky at Norm Wilner, and you can find this podcast there at Semcast, S-E-M-Cast, and on the web at someoneelsesmovie.com. The first year of the show is still available for just $20 at payhip.com/semcast. That's the first 52 episodes of Someone Else's Movie, 41 of which aren't currently available anywhere else. And check out my newsletter, Shiny Things, at shiny-things.ghost.io. I think you'll enjoy it. Our theme song is by The Last Year. If you like it or the show in general, please say so. Leave a review wherever you've been listening. Every little bit helps, it truly does. And check out the other shows on the Frequency Podcast Network while you're doing that. Stay safe, watch movies, get all the boosters. I'll see you next week.